Brad has already said. In the old days, when the private sector paid more per hour and provided better pensions and benefits in many cases, it was recognized that to obtain conscientious and hardworking public employees, we could pay a lower salary, but they also received secure tenure, less threat of being terminated without cause, and a good array of other financial benefits. There are a number of studies that demonstrate that the public sector employee earns more than the private sector employee when considering salary and benefits at the present time. During the past 10 years in Rancho Mirage, I've not been made aware of a single employee being terminated. I'm not aware of a single employee leaving Rancho Mirage because they would be paid more in a similar job elsewhere. Our city has had no furloughs during these difficult economic times, and we've had no wage cuts or salary reductions. There is no contention by the city that we have insufficient reserves and income to pay higher salaries and provide greater benefits. That is not to say we do not have future economic concerns, such as where the Supreme Court may come down in the very near future regarding the abolition of our redevelopment agencies. If the court holds against the cities, that will emerge as a gigantic issue when it comes to capital investment in infrastructure, creative assistance to business interests, and salaries to many areas of city government. Our operating revenue surplus for the past year, fiscal year, was $1.8 million. We received an additional $5.9 million in non-operating revenues in two forms. We received $2.75 million for the sale of a building we owned. We received a $3.2 million reimbursement from the Palm Desert having to do with certain street projects we were both involved with. Under the leadership of City Manager Pat Pratt, we have decreased the size of our staff by about 15 positions due only to attrition. That is, when someone leaves to move out of the area or retired, the position was not replenished. We recognize that remaining staff has been required to pick up the slack caused by the loss of those departing employees. In the near future, we will evaluate the situation in an effort to determine an optimal number of employees required to continue providing our services and amenities. Our most current tenure projections are optimistic, but that is a moving target at best and cannot be relied upon to provide us a sense of security. Because we have the money does not mean public employees should receive salaries and benefits completely out of the mainstream of both private enterprise and other municipalities across the state. There is definitely a move underway to address the burgeoning problem of unfunded pension liabilities. It is no secret that the state pension fund faces long-term shortfalls. Various factors affect long-term stability, and among them are realistic salaries on which pensions are based. I repeat, availability of funds is not the issue here. We must be mindful that these are public funds we are dealing with, funds which the elected council has a fiduciary duty to spend prudently, save where possible for emergencies, use to construct the best infrastructure we can, to provide attractive amenities within our fiscal abilities that will continue to give residents a sense of pride in living here, while we also provide superb police and fire services. This wage schedule that we'll be talking about does not impact police or fire employees as we contract for them through Riverside County. The most basic question that every management team is required to consider is whether they are in the public or private sector is this question: what is the proper standard for paying employees? I believe that a salary and benefits package that will attract quality applicants for the duties involved and which is sufficient to retain those who become employees. Stated differently, a salary and wage benefit that attracts people to apply for our jobs and an amount and incentives adequate to have them retain their positions and not move elsewhere. In meeting these objectives, we also want to provide our employees with the job security that has traditionally been the hallmark of public service. If we achieve that standard, then we are on the right course. To pay more violates the public trust. To pay less undermines and is detrimental to the city. I don't know if you got a copy of that or not, Pat. We have 72 employees, I think, and maybe 73, but I counted 72 employees, not counting the city manager and the city clerk, with whom we negotiate salary packages separately. I'd like to, by the way, there is a document out there that, if anybody wants a copy of it, that pretty much, I don't know if it got distributed or not, but instead of holding it in your hands, Larry, why don't you pass it forward and anybody can have a copy who wants it. It states the information that I am about to impart. First, I'd like to identify there's a lady up front here who's looking for one. It's just easier to follow it for anybody that numbers become difficult to handle, because this is all numbers. I'd like to address what our current starting and maximum salary levels are, what they are and have been now for a while. At the low end, our starting salary is at $34,200, and after 8 years, that rises to $48,193. In the mid to low range, our starting salary is $48,000 per annum. It moves to $67,800 at the end of 8 years. The average, or median, I should say, the median annual starting salary is $67,000 per year, and it goes up to $95,000 in year 8. The document that I've distributed also translates those salaries into a monthly wage and into an hourly wage. For example, on the median $67,000 per year salary, that amounts to $8,300 a month and about $48 an hour. No, strike that. That was, I gave you the median one. For the median, $67,000 is $5,600 a month and $32 an hour, with a maximum of $95,000 at the end of 8 years. An easy to work with number, somebody who has a salary of $100,000 in the city, that rises to $141,000 at the end of 8 years. And on the high end of our hiring starting levels is $127,000 per year, and that moves up to $179,900 at the end of 8 years. Now, with respect to the number of city employees in these various categories, in the category of 150,000 to 180,000, we have 3 employees. 100,000 to 149,000, we have 11 employees. 90,000 to 99,000, we have 7 employees. 80,000 to 89,000, we have 11 employees. $70,000 to $79,000, we have 8 employees. These are current salaries of people who are earning various categories of denomination that we have in our files, that we deal with in our files. 70 to 79,000, we have 8 employees. 60,000 to 69,000, we have 13 employees. 50,000 to 59,000, we have 12 employees. And 40,000 to 49,000, we have 7 employees. We have no employees working for less than $40,000. We also have automatic annual raises. We've referred to them as merit raises, and in a sense they are. In a sense they're automatic, because I don't think we've denied one in any of the period of time I've been here, but if we have, I stand corrected. Each employee's maximum salary is achieved in part by a series of automatic annual raises. These are called steps in city parlance. They are steps that carry with it certain percentage increases. Our existing formula is this. We have 5% wage increases, or steps, for each of the first 4 years of city employment. That is followed by 5 consecutive years of 3% wage increases. These steps increase all of our base salaries over that 8-year period by a total of 40%, not 35%, because it is compounded. So those steps increase in 8 years our base salary by 40%. This is a so-called maximum salary, but does not include cost of living adjustments, which increase it beyond that. The increase in maximum salaries via promotions, that's another method of increasing your salary. You get promoted to a different category of employment. We are proposing no change in that process. To explain it, assume an employee was hired at level 35, which is a level that has a standard set of numbers for wage increases on an annual basis for the next 8 years. Assume the employee is hired at the median level of 35 and is paid to start at $67,700 a year. Assume he or she receives a promotion to level 37, say when that person is already at step 4, having received 4 years of 5% increases each year. It could be any other combination of years. I just picked one that's in the middle. Now that employee at stage 4, step 4 of increases, is earning $82,300. So his salary has gone from 67 to 82 in 4 years. Each promotion requires a minimum of a 5% raise in salary. So if we're going to promote somebody from administrative level 1 to administrative level 2, or any other promotional position that is created or exists, they receive a 5% raise in salary, which would increase that employee's salary, the hypothetical one I've been talking about, to $86,000 a year, from $82,300 to about $86,000. In the level 7 scale, where that person is now residing, no longer in the 35 scale, that would place the employee at step number 3. He was at step 4, or she, and now that employee is back to step 3, meaning he or she just picked up an additional 5% step for the coming year and into the 5 years of 3% under the current standard. I might add that the 3% level began about, correct me if I'm wrong, but around the year 2000. Did not exist prior to that, and it came in to being during a period of time when the economy was doing well and everything was going smoothly and nobody was talking much about pension difficulties with CalPERS or elsewhere. As I said, that policy, because it is our policy to encourage promotions and to encourage staff members to point themselves in directions to increase their salaries, no change in that. The current proposed new schedule leaves starting salaries exactly where they've been, remained unchanged, but we do propose a change in the steps. The automatic promotions will change as follows. Rather than 5% increases in the first 4 years, each of the first 4 years, and 3% increases each of the next 5 years, we propose that the steps will be, in the first year, at the end of 1 year, a 5% increase in base salary. At the end of the second year, another 5% increase in the base salary, or the existing salary, I should say. And so it's compounded. In the third, fourth, fifth, and sixth years, we propose a 2.5% increase compounded, and that there would be no further automatic raises beyond those. The highest salary starting position would be $127,000, as indicated previously. That person would reach a new high in 6 years of $155,000. The $100,000 salary starter would reach a new high in 6 years of $121,700. The median salary start would be $67,716, as it has been, and at the end of 6 years, it would have reached $80,399. And then the lowest salary start, which is $34,201, reaches a new high in 6 years of $41,620. This has the base salary increasing approximately 21% in the first 6 years. And again, it's important to keep in mind that this does not include cost of living adjustments, which historically we have had many, and we'll discuss that in a second. You can see that the maximum salary levels are decreased from what they were or have been up to now. If you go back to the page that shows, for example, the high-end maximum, that is somebody who's starting at the highest end, the highest level, $127,000. The maximum at 8 years is $179,900. That would now change to $155,390. The $100,000 salary start in the original current schedule goes from $100,000 to $140,000. Over 8 years, we now go to $121,700 after 6 years. And it's similar for the other numbers. You can see that the maximum salary levels are decreased, but remember that CPI, cost of living increases, do increase the maximum levels. Cost of living increases, as I've indicated, we've had them often, but we haven't had them in the past 3 years. Cost of living, along with annual merit raises, the objective of these are to keep employee salaries in sync with the rising cost of living when it increases. In the past 10 years, this structure, steps on the one hand and cost of living adjustments on the other, has resulted in many city salaries increasing at a rate of 9% per year or 7% per year from 2001 through 2009. It depends on where one is in the steps ladder to know which amount of increase you've had with CPIs and with the salary structure. But to illustrate, if somebody started at that median level of $61,000 in the year 2001, that person would have received a 9% increase in 2002, increasing the total salary to $73,000. In 2003, received a 9% increase, 5% steps, and 4% cost of living increase, raising that salary now to $79,000. In 2003, another 5% plus another 4% CPI, raising the total salary to $86,700. 2004, another 5% plus a 4% CPI, which is what we gave in those years, raising that $67,000 salary in 4 years to $94,500. In 2005, the raise now is no longer at 5%. It's now the merit raise or automatic raise is now 3%. But in 2005, our CPI was 4.9%, raising that $67,000 salary up to $102,000. In 2006, 3% automatic raise plus a 4.5% CPI, raising that person's salary to $109,700. In 2007, a 3% merit raise and a 3.6% CPI, raising the $67,000 increase to or salary to almost $17,000. In 2008, 3% plus a CPI of 3.7 raises that salary to $125,000 almost. And in 2009, 3% plus zero CPI. There was no cost of living increase paid in that year. That person's salary moved to $128,000. Consider that the median employee, that's the median salary range that we provide, in 8 years went from $67,000 per annum to $128,000 per annum. While the council is not modifying starting salaries, it has tried to install a plan that moderates the growth of salaries. The future of pension stability, as seen in the daily newspapers, is a necessary component for the City Council to consider. Our public obligation is to offer competitive salary ranges, but not in an exorbitant range. Our wage and benefit structure had to be stabilized with an approach that meets the test of reasonableness and fairness. We live in a new reality, and from all signs that are out there, that reality will be with us for many years. It would be a mistake to think that our approach to salaries and benefits stems from an absence of money to continue along the same path we have followed. A fair salary and fair benefit package transcends all other considerations, including availability of money. Our employees have a plan called the 980 plan, and that allows them to work 9 hours a day and get 2 additional days off each month. While this plan is criticized by some, it remains in place without change, but with the council having authority, as it has had from the beginning, to terminate it at will. We have a CPI adjustment that we consider each year. This year, as in the last 3 years, we've not had cost of living adjustments. Now, a little bit about understanding the pension entitlement process. The amount of one's pension depends on A, the highest salary at the time of retirement, B, the defined benefit of 2.5% of that employee's annual salary. C, multiplied by the number of total years of service. CalPERS establishes the Rancho Mirage pension rules and calculations. They provide 4 options. Each city has the option of choosing one of the 4 schedules. Our current schedule, and it's been in position for probably 7 or 8 years or so, our current scale is 2.5% at age 55. We're proposing in the new contract, or the new imposed salary schedule, a schedule of 2% at age 60, but only for starting new employees. That, by the way, is the lowest option that we have at the present time offered by CalPERS. All this means that a current employee can retire and begin collecting pension benefits at age 55. In January, the new employee cannot retire from Rancho Mirage until age 60, and their pension benefit will not be 2.5% per year times their years, but will be 2%. Presently, we are operating under the influence of legal decisions which suggests that once a public employee begins employment at a certain rate, the retirement age and percentage received for each year of employment cannot be reduced during their entire employment. It is arguably a vested entitlement. There will probably be challenges to that legal perspective in the near future. The Council believes long-term pension solvency in the CalPERS program requires all cities to make some level of modification in pension benefits. Pension reform will be on the November ballot, which will call for a hybrid 401k style plan, and it will propose an increased retirement age to 67 years. Most cities permit retirement to begin at age 55. At the present time, all cities in the CalPERS system can set retirement ages at no higher than age 60, nor sooner than age 50. And all cities are required to participate in the defined benefit approach. A Rancho Mirage employee can, as I said, retire after 55 years of public service at 2.5%. The question is, 2.5% of what? The answer is 2.5% of the employee's highest annual salary of any 1 year during his or her entire career. Usually, the last year of employment is the highest year. We are changing this to a 3-year average for new employees, not modifying it for current employees. So a new employee will have to average his 3 highest years, or his last 3 years of public service. This is unlike the business world, the private business world, where 401k plans dominate, where the concept of highest annual wage does not even exist. For private sector employees with 401ks, retirement is based on the average of every year you worked and put some money into the 401k. Here are some examples of actual retirement scenarios. And this assumes no spiking. I'll explain that in a moment. This assumes only a final year at the highest salary. There are 4 categories that I have used to set examples so that it can be understood what we're doing. An employee who earns $100,000 at the time of his or her retirement, after 30 years of employment, retires at a salary of $100,000. Scale is 2.5% of his or her highest salary. That person could retire at age 55, but for purposes of the assumptions, assume that the person retires at age 60 after working for 30 years. 2.5% of $100,000 equals $2,500 times each of his 30 years of employment. That gives the employee retiring at a salary of $100,000 a total of a $75,000 per year pension. An employee earning $75,000 a year at the time of retirement, following the same approach, has a total of pension of $56,250 a year. An employee earning $50,000 ends up with a pension of about $37,500. And an employee earning $150,000 ends up with a pension of about $112,500. Now let me say, these are my numbers. I've done the math on them. If I've made errors, I assure you no error is made intentionally, and I assume that I will have it pointed out to me if I have made an error. It's difficult doing this without making an error, and often I caught errors that I made in going back over things. How are pension contributions made? State law requires that nearly 27% of an employee's wage scale be placed in the CalPERS pension fund. And to achieve that objective, state law requires that the city contribute approximately another 19% of the total amount. And the state law requires the employees to contribute 8% of the amount. Except there is another provision in the government code that allows the cities or municipalities to make all or part of the employee's payment. So if the employee has to pay 8%, the city could pay some or all of it. Our city pays 7% of the employee's 8%. We used to pay it all, but 3 or 4 years ago, state law changed, and from that point on, the employees have paid 1%. The council believes that it's fair and appropriate for public employees to at least pay 1/3 of the contributions to their own pensions. When the city pays that additional 7% for the employees, it is equivalent to a 7% raise in salary with no tax liability. That practice will be phased out under the new program under a 3-year phasing out period. Over a 3-year period, the employees will be paying their full 8%. Starting in January next month, their participation in their pension plan will go from 1% to 3%. 1 year later, it will increase to 5%. 2 years from now, it will increase to 7%. And then in 3 years, it will increase to the full 8%. In the meantime, the city will continue to make their payments to the extent not covered by each employee. There is a concept that most everyone has heard of, and that's called spiking of pensions. One of the most serious impacts on the CalPERS pension program is that pensions are not limited to simply covering a retiring employee final salaries. The pension checks also cover additional amounts known as spiking. This is a process by which the last year's maximum salary can be increased by procedures that are permitted by law. An employee is assigned to another job category, which has a higher salary, is an example. Cashing in unused sick leave in the last year of employment has been another manner of spiking. Current job positions given additional duties and an increase in salary to accommodate those additional duties is another method. And then there is Government Code Section 20692. Government Code Section 20692 permits any city that has been making any portion of the employees' payment. Some cities are paying all of the employees 8%. We're paying 7%. But this section allows that instead of the city paying the money directly to CalPERS in their last and highest year, this code section, which I can tell you 99% of the world or of the California legislature probably knows nothing. This code section passed the state Senate about in the late 90s on the consent agenda with one dissenting vote. It passed the state assembly again on the consent agenda, and it was not pulled for discussion on either agenda. So it got passed by both houses without comment, without discussion, and in the assembly with its 80 members, it passed unanimously. So between the two houses, there was no discussion, and Government Code Section 20692 got implemented. What Government Code Section 20692 permits, in the last year of employment, the employee can opt and ask for that 7% that has been paid by the city into their CalPERS pension fund not be paid in that last year to the pension fund, but rather be paid to the employee personally, which has the effect of increasing in that last year, by that option, the salary of any employee who opts, an increase of 7% in the pension outcome. If a person has a $100,000 salary, that 7% spike puts them at $107,000. That extra 7%, when calculated into the pension formula, increases the retirement salary of the person with the $100,000 salary, increases that person's $75,000 pension benefit to $80,250 per annum. The impact on the pension fund from this one device for a person who lives an additional 20 years is a pension increase of $105,000. And if the person lives 30 years, the impact is a total of $157,000. Just that one spiking implementation. The City Council's proposal will end spiking privileges by 2% starting in January and increasing 2% the following year, 2% the following year, and then 1%. So that at the end of the 3 years, the spike will no longer exist. We could have done that on an immediate basis, just terminated spiking period, which many would like to see happen. But on the other hand, it was the council's view that too many people have planned for retirement in the next few years. They've been here a long time, and that to change the game plan for them would be harsher than what we wanted to do, and so we didn't do it. On the issue of sick leave, council believes that sick leave is a protection device for when employees get sick or injured or a close family member does. It will no longer be a device to increase salaries or to enhance retirement benefits by giving unused sick leave, a premium that can be cashed out or used in their final year of employment to spike their highest salary year. Currently, we allow full-time employees to earn 1 day of sick leave for each month. We will continue that. When they've accumulated 960 hours, they will not be permitted to accumulate more. This amounts to 24 weeks of job and income protection. By weeks, I'm talking about 5-day weeks, the work week. Those who have already reached a number in excess of 960 hours will still be able to cash it out and presumably spike their pension benefits. It would be considered an already vested right. On holidays, the city employees currently have 13 holidays per year, and that includes 2 floating holidays. Our proposal for the coming year will eliminate Lincoln's birthday. They have President's Day and Lincoln's birthday now. We will be eliminating Lincoln's birthday, so holidays will be reduced from 13 to 12. On the issue of health insurance, the city provides excellent health care, with employees having the right to select from a series of plans that best suit their individual needs. The cost averages somewhere near $750 per employee per month. The city will continue to pay that entire month, and for the record, the City Council also benefits from that provision. I understand the employee discontent over this issue and recognize that if I were an employee, I would probably join them in their opposition. Everyone has a right to defend their own status quo. That does not translate into abandoning professional principles, obviously. We have attempted to find reasonable harmony between the public and private sectors as they relate to salaries and benefits. In the end, I know of no company that matches the package that we are establishing for employees of Rancho Mirage. We do not have a job position that would not quickly be filled by one of dozens of applicants. Since America has been shipping its manufacturing base overseas, the wages of American workers have dramatically diminished. As our federal government moves at a snail's pace to address this national tragedy, the impact is felt in every borough, city, and county. We have reached a point where the city has a salary and benefits schedule that far exceeds that which exists in private business, and which exceeds almost every public entity. The solution is not to diminish the public employee salary benefits schedule to the extent of what has occurred in the private sector. The nation must find a way to raise salary levels of the average working man by bringing jobs back to the United States. We on the Council have tried to find a fair balance so as not to create an elite employee group that becomes the envy of virtually every non-public worker. We have done our best to balance the equities and maintain our responsibilities with the public who have elected us.